Didn't work. Okay, let's try this again. 5, 4. Hi, everybody. This is Deanna Kosaraju, founder of Global Tech Women. Welcome back to our last day of Voices 2015. We have had 31 sessions. We have 7 more to go, including a live conference that's being held in Chicago later on today. So I hope that you will join the luminaries over in Chicago this afternoon. So a couple of things, housekeeping tips about Spreecast. Most of you have already been online, but this is just a casual reminder. You need to be logged into Spreecast in order to use our chat window, which is over on the right-hand side. We will use that chat window to interact with our speaker and to answer any questions that you might have, and as well as network with each other. So I hope you take the opportunity to do that. The second thing is we have a PowerPoint slide. So I will be launching that here directly, and you can drag and drop that PowerPoint deck anywhere on the screen you'd like, and you need to follow along with us. So Kellie's going to let us know what slide number she's on, and then we need to advance the slides. So we'll do that in about 30 seconds. But first, I want to introduce Kellie Conrad. She's a Cisco account manager at Cisco Systems, and she's going to talk to us about how to make it to 30 plus. So I'm looking forward to this talk. I'm going to go ahead and launch the PowerPoint deck. So you should be able to see it now, hopefully. You can drag and drop it anywhere so that you can follow our speaker as well as chat and follow along with the slides. We have 18 slides, so she'll let us know what number she's on, and then you can use the little right arrow to advance the slides. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kellie.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. I have to be honest, the only people that I see are Natasha, one of my my wonderful friends, and then there's lots of visitors. So anyway, thank you all for joining. And just to get started, so just kind of the agenda for the presentation today is the first half is going to be on how to make it is going to be basically about millennials and the research that I've done, the extensive research that I've done over the past 3 weeks on what a millennial is. And then the second half is going to be based on if you are a millennial, then how do you make it to 30? And this whole speech was brought about, and my whole topic and passion and all of this for how to make it to 30 came about when she's going to kill me. My best friend over here, Carrie, and I were talking one day, and I think we were in our early 20s, and I was in grad school, and we were trying to make a big decision, and we were trying to make a big decision about life or something going on, and all of a sudden, we both just start crying, and we're just like, oh my gosh, how are we ever going to make all of these decisions when we have no clue what we're doing, and how are we going to ever make this? And we were in our early 20s. And I mean, I literally remember sitting there with her like, we are never going to make it. And so I Googled how to make it to 30, and nothing came up. And so I was like, you know, and I tried all these other thoughts and everything. And so over the past 7 years, this is a culmination of what myself and Carrie and all of my other wonderful friends have learned. So let's go ahead and get started. So why am I talking? I am talking today based around the one book I did find, the best book, in my opinion, that I found on how to make it to 30 was, and by best to me is in my opinion. And everything in this presentation is in my opinion of the statistics that I found, because there's hundreds of statistics out there, and you can go and Google and find your own statistics, and especially about millennials, because it's all psychologists, and one psychologist thinks this, and anyway. But the best one that I found is The Defining Decade, Why Your 20s Matter. And this book, if I were to write a book, which I won't because I can't follow through like that, this is the book that, it's a good book, and it's all about what millennials are going through, how times have changed, and how to succeed. So this picture on here is really funny, and to Carrie, I've told Carrie and I have been best friends since 3rd grade, and I told her that I have looked all around the world for her birthday card, and this picture, which I'm going to have to expand this for her, but if you look really closely, in England, they had cards for everybody, ages 1 to 10, whatever that is, ages 15 to 21, age 30 to 40, and they completely skipped 20 to 30. And again, a lot of people do. A lot of talks I go to, a lot of all the, career advice, everything I get is, that I go to is usually how to succeed in, middle management, how to get that seventh promotion, but no one tells you, how do you start your career? How do you build up to that? How do you get there? How do you make it to 30? I mean, this is, when we're sitting there at 20, we're just like, how are we ever going to make it? And I had no idea. And if it wasn't for Carrie, I probably wouldn't have, which we will go to the next slide. So how to get Kellie gold stars for this presentation, which was going to be Deanna, kind of covered that actually. So if you log in and you actually chat things, I love interaction. Like for me, I didn't really want to talk for a full hour. I wanted to hear from you guys. So, but I've heard that that's maybe going to be technologically challenging. But if you can manage to log in, put chats, comment, tell me you hate what I'm talking about, let's change topics, that would be great. Whatever, I love feedback. So moving on to the next thing. So what is a millennial? So I wrote this in really, really small font. First of all, this is a terrible PowerPoint slide, FYI. Never ever in a professional setting do a PowerPoint slide like this with 75 bullet points. This is terrible. My company, God bless them, they do this all the time. It's like 75 bullet points. Nobody cares. You can't read it. It's terrible. When I first started my career back in college, I was a student trustee, member of the board, and the closest person to my age was 55 or 60. And I sat there in a presentation about millennials. It was the first time I'd ever heard about millennials. So this was back in 2009, 2008. And it was the president of the university, it was the VP of marketing, and the VP of marketing got up and did an hour-long presentation on millennials. And it was the most awkward hour of my life because all it was millennials are this, they're lazy, they don't do anything, they don't work hard, they're da-da-da-da-da. And I just sat there, and the funny part and what was so awkward was I was obviously the only millennial in the room, and so everyone just kind of kept looking at me like, well, does Kellie do that? Huh, well, does Kellie do that? And so about 45 minutes into the presentation, and after about 75 odd looks from different people, and they're checking their, well, Kellie is kind of that, because, I'm the only millennial most of them come in contact with on a regular basis. They, finally one of the guys stood up and said, guys, we're not talking about Kellie specifically, like, lay off, stop looking at her. And I was like, thank you, Frank, thank you. Meanwhile, ever since pretty much then, and, growing up in my 20s, I wasn't a big fan of millennials. I hated the title. I said, I'm not a millennial. By golly, I am not a millennial. I'm different than all other millennials. Well, during this presentation, and after talking with Deanna, she said, I'm really interested in your talk because I'd love to learn, how to interact with you guys. And my thought on that was always interact with us like you interact with everybody else. Don't treat us any differently. And we're all very unique. Well, that's nice and dandy. The thing is, according to this book, actually not this book, the one book I did read on how to become an adult, that's on the original slide, how to become an adult, the very first thing it says is you're not special. So I immediately declined that book because as a millennial, and that's when during this presentation I realized I am a millennial, and everything on here is how I am a millennial. So let's just go through the basics as to how I'm just like the rest of my generation, which I swore I was nothing like before this presentation, but it turns out I'm very much like the average millennial. I've lived at home for an entire long year after college with my parents in my childhood room after graduating from college. The first week living there, my dad came in and asked me why I was talking to a boy on a weeknight. I had to explain to him that yes, it's 10 o'clock, and yes, in high school I was not allowed to talk to boys on weeknights, but I was now 22 and graduated college, and this was my, 3-year boyfriend, that it was okay. Other millennials have had those experiences. My first job out of school, I thought I would be making roughly 100K. My first job out of school, I made 30K. And, everybody tells you, negotiate your salary, negotiate your salary. I graduated in 2009. I was so lucky to get a job. I can tell you right now what would have happened if I would have tried to negotiate my salary. They would have said, you don't get a job. And 6 months later, they told me, actually, we might fire you, you and 3 other people, because we're downsizing. And anyway, needless to say, thank God I did not try to negotiate my salary, because guess what? When you first start your career, that's great advice for middle people. Like, absolutely, by all means, when you have 3 to 5 years experience, negotiate your salary. When you have leverage, negotiate your salary. If you have multiple offers, by all means, negotiate your salary. I had 1 offer. That was it. I got 1 offer out of school. There's no negotiating. So don't feel bad if you don't negotiate your first salary. I have still, to this day, at 27, never once negotiated my salary. It has been told to me. I've never negotiated my salary successfully, let's put it that way. I've never actually negotiated it and won the negotiation. And as my brother, one of his words of wisdom, he has many because he's older, and older siblings have lots of words of wisdom, is that don't go into a battle unless you know you're going to win. And it's really, really true. Anywho, moving on. This is how, so I went to grad school, just like most of us millennials, worst year of my life. Don't recommend it. That's just me personally. Carrie over here would disagree. Different industries, we'll get into that. That's more in, I've moved a zillion times, just like all the other millennials. I have no stability. There's, yeah, if I move one more time, I think I will lose the majority of my remaining friends. But yeah, it turns out, according to statistics and according to the research, I am much more so a millennial than I thought. So, in the book, The Defining Decade, it talks about, so it's written by someone, by a Gen Xer who's a psychologist, and she's very interested in helping millennials, and she focuses on that, and which I think is fantastic. That being said, in her book, she calls it the urban tribe, is what our friend groups are called, apparently, the new term. And it was very interesting reading this, because her point was that, millennials, they're so into their friends, and, the people that change your life the most are not necessarily the people that are closest to you, but the people that you have less interaction with. And so I thought a lot about this, and I was like, I just couldn't decide if I agreed with this point or not. And so whether or not we agree with it or not isn't important, but the important thing is that for me as a millennial, I don't know about you guys, about other millennials, but to me, my friends are the most important aspect of my life. And the 6 people on this page, other than the guys, because those are my friends' boyfriends, and the brunette standing next to the blonde at the very bottom anyway, these are the people that have truly and ultimately changed my life. And what an urban tribe looks like, for anyone who's not a millennial on here, all the millennials know this. An urban tribe, these are the people you go, these are the people you cry to, these are the people that help you move. Carrie, it's her birthday this weekend, not really, but we're celebrating it this weekend, and she flew all the way down here to help me through my presentation, reminded me that the power cord needed to plug in my laptop so my laptop didn't die during the middle of the presentation. Yes, she has never offered me a job. That is absolutely correct. Never given me a job. That being said, I would not make it to 30 without this girl, or without any of these people on this screen. These are the people that came. Carrie has helped me move every single time I've moved, which has been 6 times in the past 5 years. She's the only person that has been to every place that I have lived. And I wouldn't make it to, I can tell you right now, the most important, the number one aspect of how to make it to 30 is get a good urban tribe. Yeah, they're not going to necessarily get you your next job, but they're going to be the ones cheering you on. All 6 of these, every single one of these girls has helped me in so many ways. And I can tell you, everybody on here and the real urban tribe and how to pick an urban tribe is they're there for you when the chips are down. Everybody shows up when, my friend Laura right now is moving to New York, changing her life, and she's like, all these people are here, and they're so excited. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people show up when it's the exciting times, but the real people, the real friends, And if you ever want to like know who your real friends are, just go through something really tough and you'll find out. That being said, it's also really good to be there for your friends when they're down. And that's the urban tribe. So the next slide is I asked my manager, who is a Gen Xer, and I asked her, what advice would you give people that are just starting out in their career? And this is what she said. She said, take on hard tasks, which is absolutely something that I can tell you right now, it makes all the difference. And but I loved her second one. She said she got this from the New York Times, and they interview all these CEOs apparently every Sunday. She reads the New York Times. Every Sunday they do an interview with a CEO, and she said the vast majority, she kind of summarized, which is great. I love summarizing of a whole lot of data. Forget about what you wanted to do. And the best advice I wish I would have been given, and I think that just really applies to every single one of the 6 people on the slide beforehand. All of us have pretty much learned that. You think you know what you want to do when you get out of school, and really it's about finding that need. And you know, everybody has a different path. Everybody has a different, you know, different choices they make. But the one I would absolutely say that in the commonality of all of my friends is that none of them, you know, you see, I go to these mid-level careers, and it's, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? Where do you see yourself? And it's great to have an answer. As my friend Carrie and I always joke when our manager, like, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? I don't know, employed. That's all. I mean, where you tell me, we don't know, you know, you don't necessarily have that visibility, and things are changing so fast now, it's hard to plan it out. That's great if you do. By all means, think about it and have an answer. And we've said you got to have an answer because your manager's the last. My first day on the job I moved across country from North Carolina to Texas, and which if you're not familiar with the United States, I mean, that's not too far of a distance. I mean, it's only halfway across the country. It's not a full way across the country, but halfway across the country. And I get there the first day in the blazing heat with my manager and the account manager, and both of them, they're like, so, you know, what's your goal? Like, what's your next? I'm like, I just want to get, and in my head I'm thinking, all I want to do is get my apartment settled and figure out what the heck this account is. And but my point to this long drawn out story is that it is important to have an answer for your managers, and for a quick, concise, yes, I would like to be an account manager. My answer is yes, I would like to be an account manager for the foreseeable future, and I would eventually like to move up to management. Crisp and concise. At the moment I said, I don't know. So that's not a good answer. Don't ever do what I do. Yeah, do what we've all learned from. So yeah, and the last thing is, my last thing is, one of the reasons that I absolutely adore my manager so much is she and I both are into sailing, which was very interesting, and something I read on some stupid Facebook blog that I read way too many of, and it was talking about how, as a millennial, you know, hobbies are very expensive. Hobbies take time, and they're very expensive. And which the average age that I read like 17 different average ages for when millennials get married. But the last one I read, and I put in this document, was age 30, that I got from the Huffington Post in 2009. Anyway, so most of our hobbies as single adult working females is dating. Like, that's what I spend most of my time, but at a cocktail party and at dinner you can't say that. So you have to come up with some hobbies. So again, when you're starting your career, just start to figure it out. Get your career, work, don't worry. But, you know, as you evolve, this is something that my friend Natasha is absolutely fabulous at, and she was actually the one who completely inspired me. She has so many hobbies, and she does. Emily and Natasha have so many hobbies, and I was like, I need something outside of work to do. And so I randomly got into sailing, and it just so happened that I happened to mention on a call one day with my manager that had to pass my sailing test this weekend, and she was like, oh, you're into sailing, and it's, you know, and those are the kind of things that, like, really, in this book they call it human capital, and all of those experiences, and they really are important. And I would really encourage everyone in your 20s, explore what your hobbies are. For me personally, Everybody loves running marathons. Worst hour of my life. Okay, what's hour? Like 5 hours of my life. Let's be real. Worst half marathon. Half marathon. Let's be clear. Half marathon. Worst 5 hours of my life. And not only for me, but for all of my friends and other people around me. I mean, I make sure if I'm miserable, I make sure that everybody knows it. It wasn't for me. Pick a hobby that you like. And it can be sailing, the most random thing in the world. All of my friends thought I was crazy except for Natasha and Whitney. And okay, let me rephrase it. My mom thought I was crazy because she went sailing with me. Her direct quote was, "If you're a terrible driver, why do you think you would be good at sailing?" And I mean, she had a good point. It was a very valid point. Carrie's over here shaking her head. She's been in many near-death experiences with me in driving. Yeah, I cannot drive. Anywho, so if I were you as a millennial, I would probably not be paying attention at this point. I would be on my email back to work. So I completely understand. So I'm going to say this now and slip this in here. The whole, moving on now to the advice portion of this. What I really want you to take away from this is I usually go to speakers and I'm like, wow, that person is so accomplished and so amazing. Like wow. And I'm just like, I could never live up to that. Here's the thing. As you can probably tell by these really gray and black slides and everything else, I am not someone that is perfect. And most of the millennials my 6 friends, none of us are perfect. We all have things that we're good at. We all have things that we're bad at. And what I really want you to take away from this is if I can do it, anybody can do it. So we all have our baggage, as my friend and I were joking last night when I asked her if she had any baggage in the baggage claim. She's like, no, you're the one with all the baggage. We all have our baggage. We all have the crap that we've gone through. But at the end of the day, if I can do it, if I can work in technology, anybody can work in technology. And all of my friends in technology would agree that there is truly no better industry to work with. I have to cover fashion merchandising ears over here. She would probably disagree because she does love her job. But in my opinion, of course, because I work in technology, I think that it is a fantastic place to work. So one of the tips that this book gave was analysis paralysis. And this quote, I loved this quote. I read through the whole book and I just kind of pulled out the things that really spoke to me the most and that I took away from it. So if you take something away from this, great. These are the things that I took away from it, is that, and I think this is very common, this is what her advice to a couple different millennials. She kind of summarized all of the different millennials into different characters and then kind of just talked through the advice. And I loved this quote because one of the analogies that she used in the book was that a lot of the millennials that came into her office felt like they were drowning in an ocean and they were looking out and they couldn't see land, and because they couldn't make a decision. And it was a lot of the typical millennials that you hear about, which most of you are not on this call, because the typical millennial, according to the research, still doesn't have a job, is still working at a coffee shop, is a ski instructor in Aspen, like our dear friend Cheryl. That is the average millennial. So most of you on this call are not an average millennial. You're already above the average millennial because you're in technology and you're on this call. But I think we all still struggle with the fact that there are so many options out there. And in today's world, and this is more of a technology thing than I think even a millennial thing, I think we all deal with this. There's so much information out there. How do you pick the information? And again, as the millennials, we're coming into this new. When our parents came in, you had fewer options. And there's a great TED Talk about it. It's actually easier when you have less options. I mean, the hardest thing is when you think you have, and this book goes into it, is that we think we have infinite options when we really don't. When you really narrow it down to what exactly are your options, it's different. But again, when you go into college now, you have 100,000 majors that you can choose from. How on God's green earth at 18 are you supposed to choose a major? I will never understand that. Props to the people who chose correctly. I certainly did not. I joke that I majored in unemployment. The official term was telecommunications, which everyone has a completely different definition for that. But needless to say, you know, I think, FYI, just in case anyone is still going to undergraduate, my advice to my children will be go with a general major, go with a business, go with something that's broad and everybody understands. Don't go with telecommunications, sales, and promotions, or my favorite, my master's, Center for Information and Communication Sciences. No one has any clue what those things are. The only perk is everyone thinks they do, so it's whatever they think it is. Yeah, there's pros and cons. Anyway, the point of this is you can think about it, you can think your way through life, you can talk about it. I love to talk, my friends, I drive them nuts. But at the end of the day, it's about doing. So one of the activities that we're going to take a quick 5 to 10 minute break, we'll see how long it takes Carrie and I, we're going to do this together, is I want everybody to get out a piece of paper or on your notebook or whatever you may want to do, and I want you to write down or draw or whatever you like to do for the next 10 minutes. You've got a 10-minute break here. We're at the half-hour mark. You've got a 10-minute break, and I want you to answer how to begin with the end in mind, professionally, economically, romantically, or reproductively. The end in mind is by the time you turn 30, or if you're past 30, 30 plus, go 2 to 3 years out. All right? All right, Carrie and I are going to do this. Let's go get some paper. I like to do paper. So this is one of the ways that I'm not your typical millennial. I actually am horrible with personal technology, and I love my little Ball State red notebook here. All right, so how to begin with the end in mind. Carrie, what are your thoughts on this? I'm going to write down for Carrie and talk. And you can talk. It's okay. You're talking to me, and I'll dictate. Carrie, professionally, where do you want to be when you're 30? So the key here is perfect. The key here is think broad. Don't think specific. Don't think these are goals. Here's the thing. I hate setting goals because I only want to set goals that I can achieve. And my goals are going to change all the time depending on the information. But here, the idea of this is to think generally. And just to keep this in mind, begin with the end in mind. That is a seven habits of highly effective people, which if you have not read the book, I despise the book because my parents made me read it like 150 times. If you need a copy, the Conrads will send you a copy. We have at least 25 in storage somewhere. But it's a good concept. It's a good think where you want to end up. Just take some time and actually think about this. So you want to be a manager or director, okay? FYI, these came right out of the book. I know we're about to get personal, but I didn't come up with this. Economically, Carrie, where do you want to be when you're... Perfect. What does financially stable mean to you? This is so much easier than doing this myself. I'm so glad Carrie is here. It doesn't have to be an exact number. Like, do you want to be out of debt? Do you want to be, what are your... Okay, stay out of debt. That's good. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Investments and build up your retirement. Perfect. Those are, I didn't even coach her on these, but these are fantastic and the exact answers that I'm looking for. We're going to put Carrie/Kelly because those, I'm taking total credit for these. Okay, what else are our goals, Carrie? Romantically, this is all you. Okay. Carrie wants to be married and beginning to have a family. All right. Very good. Well, Carrie is done with this. And I have written these down for Carrie now. So at 30, I will be giving this to her. I won't actually because I'll lose it. But I will, in theory, Whitney or Natasha or, yeah, hopefully Adrian will remember this. So very good. All right. All right. Very good. And hopefully you guys will keep yours. And again, these are guiding principles as to just things, good things to think about. And one of the pieces of advice in this book was the little quote was stop sliding and start deciding. And I absolutely loved that because for me personally, I had this epiphany at 27. I really wish I would have had it much, much earlier. Was that I just go through life and I don't make a lot of decisions. It's just kind of go with it. And I really liked this quote because it's really adamant. And I think so much for it's hard. I mean, it's very difficult in your 20s because you don't have a lot of leverage. You don't have a lot of capital. You don't have it's a difficult thing. But at some point, and again, not in your first couple years. I mean, in my first couple years, I think it's good. You blend in, you fit in, you figure out where the company needs you, where the jobs are, and you do. But as you progress, as you get closer to and more established in your career, it really is one of the biggest things I've learned, even just in the last 3 weeks, is making decisions, how to make that decision, and the biggest thing is just make a decision. And sometimes a wrong decision is better than no decision at all. And a lot of times that is the case. So another book that I found was How to Become a Grown Up in 468 Easy-ish Steps. Loved that because I love anytime people add the word ish to a word and make up words, which I don't know when that happened and that became okay to make up words. Ball State, the college I went to, we had a whole marketing campaign around immersive learning. It turns out, I looked it up, immersive is not even a word. I don't know when that happened that we could just start making up words and putting it on, but that's how immersive we were, that we made up that word. Anyway, so one of the pieces of advice here, everybody talks about how to network. And if I hear one more time, get mentors, get this, personally, this is just me. Again, everybody does this completely differently. I look at networking as making friends. It's a two-way street. Again, when you're starting out, absolutely, by all means, and again, in this book it talks about the people that, reach out to someone. You don't have to, someone, when you need a job, you can reach out to someone that maybe you haven't talked to in 3 years. Maybe they know someone that knows someone that, whatever. They can help you. People can, and that's great. And that's, that's how you network. That's how you get a job, perhaps. But at the end of the day, what I have found very successful is that I look at networking as a friendship, and it's a two-way street. And if I can't offer something to the mentor, then I don't take up a lot of their time. And again, that's not even early on, it was, I'm not going to the president of the university. I was on the board. I didn't take up a lot of her time. I didn't really focus any time on networking with her. She's not someone, we're not at the same level. That's not someone that is going to, I don't try to network 17 levels above. I did. Don't get me wrong. I actually made that mistake numerous times. It's I met Stedman Graham, Oprah Winfrey's boyfriend, and I was like, oh my gosh, he could maybe get me on with Oprah because I really wanted to work for Oprah. She's not at the level that you don't, we don't start off at that level. That's not the person that, at least in my experience, changed my life. The people that changed my life were the people closer to my level, 1 or 2 positions above me. And it's connecting those dots. But here's the thing: people reaching out to, someone and saying, "Hey, I need a job." What job do you want? What have you looked at the website? Have you, do your research and ask specific things. And again, be willing to, and it doesn't have to be right away. I'm all about there's seasons and there's times that, one person helps someone more than another. But at the end of the day, I mean, look at networking as not just something that you're doing to get a mentor and to schedule a call every week with them for an hour and talk through everything. Like that's, in today's fast-paced world, I mean, it's about making relationships, and I look at it as making friends. So one of the things that as I was going through this how to make it to 30 and coming up with different things was, and again they talked about this in the book, is stop comparing. Facebook right now, we all get on Facebook, we all get on Instagram, and we all think, oh my gosh, Carrie's life is so much better than mine. Did you see that adorable picture she posted the other day? Now I know Carrie, so Carrie and I have a phone conversation, and she's like, oh my gosh, I was sick all weekend. I'm like, but you had this beautiful picture. She's like, oh yeah, that was from, the Bahamas trip that I took like 3 months ago. What? I mean, my mom does this to me all the time. God bless her. She's just all, well, wait, I thought you were just in Siesta Key. No, I posted that picture. That was like, 3 weeks ago. Now granted, my poor mother, I do travel way too much, and so no one can keep up with me. But anyway, the point to this is it's really easy to look on Instagram, to look on Facebook, and we all think, and we all do it, we all know that, like, my life is not glamorous. My life is, I don't post the fact that I lost my phone 17 times this month. I don't post that on Facebook. Nobody knows that except for the people on this call and my closest friends. Those are not the things that I post on Facebook. And we all do it. Nobody does. But then we're all still shocked that, oh, but, this happened and this happened. And especially as you start to approach your 30s, and then all Facebook now is just marriage announcements. And babies, that's right. And babies. What else? Yeah, marriage and babies, that's pretty much it. One guy on my newsfeed had the best thing. He just posted one day. He was like, FYI, you don't need to scroll down anymore. Everyone's dumping ice water on their head, got engaged, or having a baby. And I just loved him. He got like 200 likes. It was great. It was like, you're right, I really don't need to scroll down the rest of my newsfeed. That's it. Oh, good old Bobby does well. But yeah, so once you graduate high school and once you graduate college, everybody goes their separate ways. I mean, look at Carrie and I. Look at her right now. Come on. She's going to be... We look like the same kind of people. I mean, really, most people I think we look identical. 10 minutes ago, she looked way better than me. I spruced up in like 5 minutes right before the call. And but the point to this is, in third grade, we were inseparable. Like, we were very similar. But once you graduate college, your lives go in completely different directions. And that's okay. Everybody takes a completely different path. We were arguing in the car last night about grad school because that's one of my passions for people in tech, and we came to the conclusion together that, and she just said, okay, we just agreed to disagree mainly, but every industry is very different. My opinion in technology is that a grad degree is not necessary. A grad degree, my recommendation to all people, and again, this is coming from someone with a master's, if you want to make the best use of your time and the best use of your money in your 20s, and you want to stay in technology, and you want to be at the top of your game in technology, go get certifications. This is coming from someone who works at Cisco, where certifications are king. But I promise you, you'll make more money, you'll be more impressive, etc., 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 going to get a CCIE or going to get some Microsoft certification or whatever certification it may be in technology than getting an MBA or getting some other random degree. I got my master's based on the fact that I worked at a printing company my first year out of school, and on a daily basis I had issues like the warehouse director threw a box at my manager's head, and we couldn't file an HR case because he was dating the HR manager, and it's just a complete and utter disaster. I mean, this was just... That being said, I will forever and always be grateful to Frank Hancock, who gave me my first job out of school, because in reality, I wasn't trained to do anything. I joked that a chimpanzee could have done my job. Ironically, the chimpanzee and I had the same preparation for being an account manager at a printing company. I wasn't an account manager, account coordinator at a printing company. And the reality is you can't buy experience. Right now I'm in a position where I was in an accelerated program, and John Chambers, the CEO of our company, said, as a Cisco ASR program, in 2 to 3 years, we give people what you would get in 15 to 20 years. Well, that's great that he thinks so, and that's really awesome. In reality, it doesn't. The people that I work with that have 20 years experience are much better at their jobs than I am. And in 20 years doing this job, I really hope that I'm much better than I am right now. And that's okay. But again, my point is, you can go to school, you can do all of that. It does not buy experience. It does not buy the 3 to 5 years that everybody is looking for, the 5 to 10 years that everybody is now looking for in the jobs that I want. It's 5 to 10 years experience. Well, guess what? That extra year in, and again, thank God in my opinion, I only went for a year. But I just say in technology, that's my 2 cents on that. Anyway, go after your own version of success. My own version of success is I do not. It's not, to me, it's not the biggest and greatest and best thing that you can ever do. That's not my version of success. So create your own version of success. If on your professionally, economically, romantically, it all fits in there and school fits in, then by all means, go after it. But create your own version of success and realize that my version of success is not the same as Carrie's version of success. On these high levels, yeah, sure. I want to be a manager or director. Manager, definitely not director. There's no way on God's green earth I would be a manager of or be a director at in 3 years. But yeah, on a high level, but individually breaking it down on a day-to-day basis, we have very different versions of success in our lives, and that's okay. And in 3rd grade, yeah, the version of success was A's or B's. Carrie got A's, I got B's. That was okay, that was okay. Actually, in 3rd grade, I got all A's except for 1 B in math, for the record. And only 1 quarter. I actually have the report card. It was my only public school report card, so I kept it. All my other report cards after 3rd grade just went whoop. But that's okay, we all still survive. And that brings me to my second to last point. Stop beating yourself up, because here's the thing. In your 20s, we all make so many mistakes. I look back and all my friends tell me, don't have regrets, and that's fine. I'm in agreement. We've all come to there, blah, blah, we're not going to have regrets. If I could go back and do my 20s over with what I know now, we would all do things differently. If you didn't, then you're not taking enough chances. We all make mistakes. But the point is, and I'm saying this mostly to myself so that my friends can remind me of this later, is stop beating ourselves up. We all make them. Carrie and I went through this, and we were so worried that we were going to make one wrong decision that was going to veer us off path, and the reality is it's a culmination of a lot of decisions. It's not one decision. There's no one day that's going to ruin your chances to making it to 30 or being successful. It's a combination of decisions on a daily basis that add up, and that's, and all you can do in reality is wake up every day and do the best you can, because it's a culmination of decisions, and it's thinking ahead but also thinking in the now and figuring out that balance, because at the end of the day, it's all about balance, as my mother always says. So a piece of advice that I now have decided at my ripe old age of 27, and something that I have been working on, is stop taking every piece of advice completely to heart and going to the extreme. So this is something that my good friend Carrie here has actually taught me, is that I seek out advice from every single person, and I go overboard on the advice. And because I don't really trust myself, and I'm very impulsive, so I like to. But the problem with this is we get back into the analysis paralysis. So you can talk about something, and you can get people's opinions, and you can look at it from 75 different angles, but at the end of the day, you just have to make a decision. And it took me till 27 years old to finally make my first decision on my own, and rather than asking every single person's input before I made it, I just made it and then told everyone. Everyone was a little shocked, but I decided to move from Austin to Dallas based on personal, professional, etc., etc. But I encourage you, as you get into your career, as you get older, there's 1 to 2 advisors, 1 to 2 people that you talk through a problem with. You've gotta make your own decisions and realize that only you know the answer that's best for you. I don't know the answer that's best for you. I don't know the answer that's best for Carrie. I don't know the answer that's best for Adrian. I know the answer that's best for Kellie. And even then, that's not even always the case. So I sure as heck don't know what's best for you guys. I mean, if someone reaches out to me and they say, hey, Kelly, by the way, do you think I should move to Dallas? I would have no idea. It made sense for me. I chose to move to Dallas, but that doesn't mean it's right for Carrie. That doesn't mean it's right for anybody else. So don't, take advice, listen to it, say thank you, I really appreciate it. Don't get mad, even though I do sometimes now get mad because just take it, listen, and make your own decision. And also understand, one of the greatest things that hit me finally later was that later on was that everybody gives advice based on what they know. All of this advice that this is an advice session. This is a how do I think, what do I think? And I give you advice based on my own experiences and what I've gone through and what I've learned. And it's really important when you are not, when you're trying to decide how much do I take this advice? Understanding where that person's coming from and understanding why they're giving you that advice and not just saying, Carrie thinks that red is the best color. Why does Carrie think red is the best color? Does she think red is the best color for my jacket, or does she think red is the best color for her bathroom tile? Like what is this? Do I need to go out and buy every single thing red when she comes? What exactly? Because we all throw things out there, especially on a tweet. It's out there forever, and a lot of people don't think about it. But that's, that doesn't mean what you say in one tweet isn't, or what you say in one text message, or what you say in one thing. That's, asking clarifying questions and figuring out where that person is coming from. So one of the things that I've also dealt with this year that is how to handle drama. And everybody has drama in the workplace, and it's really interesting because I was talking to my manager about this, and she said, don't get caught up in other people's drama. And I can tell you, this was my approach for the first year in my career at Cisco. I didn't want to deal with anybody's drama. I didn't want to know anybody's drama. I just wanted to completely stay out of the drama. That wasn't quite the right approach. So then when I got into the field this year, I got into everybody's drama. I wanted to know what everything was going on because I wanted to be in the know. Well, that wasn't really the right approach either, because usually the right approach is not one extreme or the other. It's usually in the middle. And so my advice and what I've learned about, especially with drama, is my uncle had a great saying that you don't want to be the wind that starts the waves. You can know about the waves, you can surf on the waves, but you don't want to be the wind that starts the waves. And that's so. As far as drama goes, in my own personal experience in working and what my friends, it's good to know, because here's why it's good to know. It's not good to know that you don't need to know all the drama. You don't need to know about people's relationships. You don't need to, especially if you work with a bunch of young single millennials, which I don't, but if you hypothetically do, you're so lucky, because nobody, but you don't need to know all of that. What you need to know is what's going on with people that you're working with, what's going on, how are they feeling about their jobs, what are they thinking, what you want to be in the know, because it's, you don't want to be completely, outside of it and have no idea what's going on with your coworkers, no idea what's going on with your team. And this is especially in a profession that I know Adrian and a lot of the people at Cisco, we work remotely. And it's very easy to just get your work done, not socialize with anybody. And as the more we're going into, a virtual world and people are working at home, as you can see, I'm in my bedroom right now. This is honestly where I work 90% of the time. And it's a lot easier to just completely shut it out. It's very easy to just send out my emails, not have really, but that's definitely not, especially when you work remotely. It's so important to really get to know people and really, the biggest thing is, I've always been a big proponent of showing up, but again, I work in a virtual environment, but it is even more important to get that face time, to get that, to have those relationships and build them and figure out how to do that in whatever environment you work in. Carrie is has a traditional 8 to 5. She goes into the office. She does happy hours with her coworkers. That's a more common environment. But I would say it's still important, and it's harder, I think, in the virtual world. And it's something that I've had to work on, because at first I was just like, I'm just going to get my work done and it doesn't matter. But it's as I've stayed with the same team and gotten into it, it's very important. And the relationships I've developed have helped me out a lot, because I have a personal relationship, so I can ping someone real quick and be like, hey, can you help me with this? And they're going to be a lot more willing to help because you have a relationship, as opposed to this random AM that they've never talked to other than on our weekly call. So the other thing, so I loved there's back in the day, I don't know how many international people we have on here, but for all of the US, everyone remembers head on, apply directly to the forehead, head on, apply directly to the forehead, the most annoying commercial in the world. I didn't even know, I thought of this when I was preparing this, and I thought, head on, what even is that product? All I remember, Carrie shaking her head, she has no idea what head on was, but it was the most annoying commercial in the world. That is not how you want to handle drama. You do not want to handle it head on. You do not want to get in the middle of it. You do not want to handle anything head on, whether it's drama, whether it's a problem. You don't want to be the head on siren. And I loved that comparison. And especially one of the other great pieces of advice that my RM gave me was that believe something that you've heard 3 times. And if you haven't heard it 3 times, especially like with, somebody says this, rumors get started, and until you hear it for a 3rd time, just don't even worry about it. And it's really true, because, and I found at first I was like, well, oh my gosh, 3 times, what's ever true? And it's very little, but she is absolutely right that unless the things that I have really believed, I've heard that are actually true, I've heard from at least 3 people, and the rest of it generally doesn't happen. It's, one person's speculation, or especially, so I work on very large, I work on only 2 accounts at Cisco, and one's $55 million account, one's 45, 50, depending on how we do this year globally. And so they're very big accounts, and it's a lot of speculation. It's what's going to happen to this account, what do we think? And it's, again, analysis process. I could spend all day, every day reading about what's going to happen to my 2 accounts and what one analyst is going to say and all of this. And one account manager I work with thinks this, and I could spend all day doing this. But it's really true. If you put your head down and you focus on what's going on today, as my manager always says, and I'm always, no, I need to focus on what's going to happen next year in 8 months that I can't control, but let's talk about that, when in reality, no. But the funny thing is, it all comes back to anything that's actually happened in any of the accounts, at least 3 people have confirmed. And everything else that I've heard from 1 person or even 2 people, what they think, usually doesn't happen. And at the end of the day, what I'm going to leave you all with, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes back. Sorry, I should have given you more time back, but is go with your gut. Any questions? Can we do questions? All right, Carrie, do you have any questions? Carrie has no questions. All right, well, on that note, give you 5 minutes back, and thank you all so much for joining. I really hope you got something out of this. Please feel free to Facebook me at Kellie, Kellie, Conrad, Conrad. Send me a message. Let me know how your life is, what you're doing. Let's be friends. Thanks so much.
Sorry. Display not working.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I took myself off camera. Bye.
My picture completely died. So thanks. Really appreciate it, Kelly.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thanks, you too.